We're at Foxtrot. This is Tasting Room Radio. I'm Terry David Mulligan. We have cornered nicely, the man I came to talk to, Nathan Todd, President and GM of Foxtrot. Welcome. I mean, it's your home, but welcome.
Thank you. It is good to be here.
Tell me about your earliest connection to the Okanagan.
I came here camping as a kid was probably the very earliest thing, and I had aunts and uncles and my grandparents out here. But I really started to sink in as a teenager when my parents bought a place, and I started looking for work in the summers. So before everything turned over to wine, I used to pick cherries for gas and beer money, which was about my only concern.
That's a good life.
At the age of 18 or 19.
That's a good life.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Did girls like guys with stained hands and jeans and things?
They didn't like guys with my attempted facial hair so much, you know, or maybe the odor of having worked for 5 hours, starting at 5, you know, in the cherry orchard.
Did any of that prepare you for this life?
A little bit. It's hard to connect the dots between the two things, because I was sort of living a parallel life after that. On the East Coast in New York City, selling wine to fine restaurants and things, and it seemed for a long time like it really had nothing to do with this sort of origin story from Canada. So it was really an amazing opportunity to be able to connect those two parallel paths when I found Foxtrot wine served to me blind. In 2011.
Where?
I was at a gentleman named Rob Kane's house in Vancouver on my way to Hong Kong to sell. I was kind of the cellar rat for a big Burgundy collector at the time. We were selling $10 million worth of Burgundy in Hong Kong. And we just happened to stop there, and he was serving a bunch of great Ravenel and, you know, Roumier wines, and he loves to serve wines blind, and he brought something out with tinfoil all over it. And I was there with my partner Doug Barsley, who's tasted everything, and he poured the wine for us, and we kind of argued for a little bit, you know, was it Chambon Musigny? Was it Geoffroy Chambertin? And even down to like, okay, well, what vintage? It's like, you know, this is kind of more. This is kind of maybe more 2009 because it's full, but it's too elegant for that. And it was Foxtrot.
And the tinfoil came off.
The tinfoil came off, and there was the Bear and the Maiden, which we had never seen before. And I said, how the heck is anybody doing this? Because all I knew was, you know, cherries and peaches. And yeah, there was like some things starting to happen, but, you know, what did that really have to do with the, you know, fancy aged Burgundy and Bordeaux that I was selling to Per Se in New York? And you know, a light bulb sort of went off in my head and said, like, wow, there might be a bridge between these two worlds, you know.
And you may be the bridge?
Well, I guess I'm serving that function right now. Yeah, and I'm feeling, you know, definitely spread across two worlds.
Mid-Atlantic man, mid-Pacific man. How did you make your approach? How did the approach happen to Foxtrot?
So I forgot about Foxtrot after coming here to meet them, and I got really excited, and I bought a case of wine from Gustav Allander. And that was the 2006 Foxtrot estate. And then, you know, the idea kind of went to bed. It was, you know, I stayed in touch with him. I pulled off the same trick in San Francisco, and I tricked a bunch of sommeliers into thinking it was Burgundy. And he used some of my comments on the website, but like, you know, beyond that, like, it was just a nice story. I didn't think much of it until 2016. You know, basically the day after the presidential election, all of a sudden that day, I had people saying to me, man, this is crazy. We don't know if the U.S. is actually going to be a stable place to live. anymore. Maybe I should move some of my money overseas. And I said, well, you know, I might have something kind of interesting. Like, why don't we go take a look at the Okanagan, which is when I brought Doug out to the Okanagan. We were looking for just a vineyard, or land to convert to a vineyard, and you know, hopefully have somebody of like a high caliber make the wine. Remember that Foxtrot wine that we tasted all those years ago? What if we could make something like that? I mean, oh, in our wildest dreams, like we would have bought a piece of property and Foxtrot would make the wine, and that was the extent of it. So after touring the valley, you know, Vernon du Soyuz, getting the lay of the land for real estate, our realtor says to us, well, you know, we might have a piece of property coming along. It's a peach orchard on Narramatta Road, but the thing is, there's somebody has a right of first refusal on it. The neighbor. Who's the neighbor? Well, it's this old Swedish family, the Allanders. Oh, I happen to know them, and I happen to be having dinner with them tonight. I wonder if they'll say anything to me about this. Yeah, you know, they tried to buy it a couple years ago. They couldn't get their hands on it. We know that they would love to plant vines there. Okay. He didn't mention it to me at that dinner, but Torsten called me the next week when I got back to New York and said, hey, so there's this piece of property. And I was like, bingo. So we spent the several months buying that property and negotiating with them to, you know, we were trying to arrange sort of a fermage agreement the way they would do it in France, where there's either a split between of produce or bottles of wine at the end of the day in exchange for their farming the land. And then they just totally went silent in the negotiations, and we had to close off the transaction and finalize it ourselves, saying, you know, Foxtrot making the wine would be a really nice idea, but even if it doesn't happen, this is really what we want to do. This is going to be a great investment, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's not going to be very much work at all. Famous last words. It was several months until I heard from them again, and on the day of the solstice, which I think must have been 2017, Torsten emailed me and he said, you know, my wife is terminally ill, and I've been thinking about what to do, and we've decided we want to sell the winery, and would you want to buy it? So, I mean, that was more than I could have ever imagined would have been offered to me, and still a pretty early phase in my career, and have the prospect of, you know, this this kind of storybook estate fall into my lap was amazing. The only problem is I didn't have any money. So
there was that.
Fortunately, we know a lot of people
who
drink great Burgundy,
yes.
And I don't know if they have any money, but those two things tend to go hand in hand.
Okay.
And we had a great you know, story to tell with it. So we got a group of close friends who are all wine drinkers, most of them in the Tastavan in New York, to back this horse and you know, make a foray into the Okanagan, and with it sort of you know, bridge the gap between the Okanagan and not just New York, but France as well, because they're all very connected in France. And I've known Veronique Duran for over a decade, and we were able to bring her in and start consulting and really bring a piece of the old world
Wine
to
Smarts
this as well.
Wine Smarts.
Yeah.
I assume that the pitch, normally your pitch is, you know, you pour out your heart. All you had to do was pour out your wine. That's the pitch. This is where we're going.
Yeah, I suppose so. Okay, so do you want to talk about the wines that we have in front of us?
Yeah,
now?
absolutely.
Okay. So
there's two Foxleys.
Yes, there's two.
Foxley is a new label, of course, new relative.
Yeah, so you know, one thing that was lacking here was, you know, we were really constrained, and we want to be constrained to just being a Burgundy house, more or less, being using the grape varietals that we think express terroir the best, being Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. But there's a lot more fun to be had out there, and there's a lot of people who would like to experience a piece of Foxtrot without having to pay the same price. So
Price point on the bottle?
this is about $24.
How many cases?
This is the 2020. We got about 250 cases of that.
Available?
200
But I mean,
on our website.
Can we find it?
Yeah, find it on my website. Yeah.
Can we find it in the store?
Yeah, you can find this in Save On Foods and in the Jack's stores.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. Pinot?
There's about 20% of Pinot Noir in there, and the rest is Pinot Gris.
How long on skins?
This had no time on skins. Yeah.
Like this is it?
This is it. This is it. This was a Saunier.
Did you talk about color? Because no,
Are we on the radio? Do I have to
astonishing.
talk about the color? Okay.
No. It's astonishing how many interviews I've done with winemakers who say, I wasn't interested in the color. I was interested in the taste and the texture. And I'm going, but they're buying by color.
They're buying well, and I think you're tasting by color too. Honestly, I mean, I think it has just an enormous impact on the way that you think and feel about what you're putting in your mouth. And you know, I've sat down and done different blends at there where really the only difference is, you know, the more of a darker varietal, and it's like you perceive what you're shown. You know?
That's right.
It definitely, and that doesn't mean that your palate's wrong. It means that your perceptions are influenced by what you see.
I'm seeing. Excuse me. I'm going to move you forward here. I see in some of the better wine stores that I like, I'm seeing that they're now displaying the rosé on the aluminum rack that you would see in kitchens against the light coming in, so you can actually, like, it's a show of color. And I can't speak for the guys, but the women are buying on color. Even when they ask me, I say, "Are you buying on color?" And they want me to recommend something because they know what I do, and I just say, "No, you have to go with what talks to you, what speaks to you."
Yeah, no, and there's no shame in that. You know, it's and it does taste beautiful, like it looks, and you do intone a lot about it from what it looks like.
It also brought out my feminine side, which is a good thing. Tell me about the second one.
So that's our 2019 rosé, which we're showing because that one did spend 24 hours on skins. So it's a bit of a different style. I really like the kind of zip and tannin that is in there. You know, you don't think of rosé as being a tannic drink, but I find that kind of giving it a base makes the wine a lot more interesting.
Do you personally like a Tavel rosé?
Yeah, I do.
Can I pour myself?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Do you have the spittoon? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Tell me about this beauty.
So this is 99% Pinot Gris, which spent 24 hours on its skin. So really, you could call it orange wine or Vin Gris. And we've added just 1%. Just this one actually had a really beautiful sort of orange pink hue. And the Zweigelt was added just for color because I wanted to sell a rosé. I thought that
Zweigelt.
Yeah.
I love Zweigelt. It's like the ugly duckling and I love it. I harvested it down the road here for a while.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's just this dark, inky grape varietal, which which blends nicely.
What would you pair with this?
You know, I think that like a smoked salmon, or I was served this with like salmon and sort of jalapeno was like a really awesome thing to go with it. Or
could I do mac and cheese?
I would stay away from
if
that.
the cheese was right.
Yeah, sure. If you've got like a really right, maybe a Gruyere and like, you know.
How about a bocconcini and cheese? No, bocconcini and tomato croissant.
Okay, I'll accept.
What's the name of that place?
The Legend that we just did.
The Legend. They should be pouring this.
The Legend.
How much did you make? How many cases?
We made 600 of this. This was our first wine that we did with Foxley, and we really dove in because
And price point?
same. It's about $24.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Now, what about the Pinot?
The Foxtrot Pinot.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get
Which,
there.
which is like a biblical phrase.
Yeah.
The Foxtrot Pinot.
Uh-huh.
Did you feel any pressure taking over those vineyards and that name and that juice?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of pressure, and we were put up against a lot of challenges almost immediately. I mean, my first week on the job, one of our 2 blocks of mature producing fruit, not the old estate block, but the younger block, succumbed to a powdery mildew infection. One of the vineyards downhill that had been planted 1 year ago had died completely. And, you know, things were not exactly in place when I got here. So we had some big shoes to fill, and with the amount of time that it takes from grape to glass, that just meant that there's a lot of people I was going to disappoint for a couple of years. And we're finally at a place now where I'm very confident with where we've been able to get to, and claw our way back and show people that, you know, we're still a very serious house, and the terroir is still here, and that's what really
You're going to honor the terroir.
we're going to honor the terroir
and the legacy. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I loved this story as much as anyone else. I loved it enough to you know, rally people to buy the place. So that's what we want to do, is keep the quality standards where they were, and I think the best way to do that is not to, you know, hide the fact from anybody that we've had some problems, you know, because the bar is very high, and that's what we want to live up to. It's a high bar.
You could have bought in Finger Lakes.
Yeah, but who wants to live there? You know what the winters are like in the Finger Lakes.
All right. Well, welcome to the bench. A message, please, to Foxtrot fans who would like some words of assurance that you're going forward with the vision that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait until you taste the estate this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think this is almost out of battery. What do you think?
You should have told me how long you had. I could have skipped to the end. We could have tasted the red wine. But
Good. It's coming. Let me just ask you a couple of things.
yeah.
What you thought winemaking was, and the day-to-day of what it is, a little different?
Yeah, diametrically opposed. I mean, I just saw winemakers in France, you know, like they hang out in the cellar with you for an hour and a half, and then you would, you know, maybe meet them for dinner later that week, and I thought, these guys have a great life. It's, you know, what I didn't realize is that they have like really set that time aside from you, and they're doing like cartwheels to, you know, be in the customer service industry, in a luxury goods industry, at the same time as being farmers. And, you know, I'll never be annoyed again when somebody cancels dinner on me because, like, you know, it rained and they gotta go spray.
Yes.
Because that's really what it is. And it's so much more involved. Almost the minute that I became a winemaker, quote unquote, you know, the questions, after having done hundreds and hundreds of cellar visits, were just completely different. It was almost instantaneous. It was like birth. You know, you kind of just had just such a vague understanding of what was happening outside, and then when you get there, you know, there's just a whole world of things you don't understand that you need to understand.
Nathan Todd is his name. Go find him if you can. Just remember, Nathan has his hands on the wheel. He's driving this bus at Foxtrot. Thank you for the Foxley, both
Yeah.
the Foxleys, and thank you for the Pinot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Terry.